We are back in a galaxy far, far away with Andor. Is it any good? Yes, but it does have some problems. But let's start with the good stuff. The world Tony Gilroy has brought us is beautiful. It feels real, it's beautifully shot, and everything feels lived in. We see aliens in a way we've never seen aliens before. In the beginning of the show, Andor is walking down what seems to be the street of an entertainment district, and he walks by some aliens of the night. I really enjoy that kind of world building, and it's pretty consistent throughout each episode of the show. Thumbs up. Moreover, I think Tony has fully realized the vision he started in Rogue One, which I'm not that big a fan of. I think the flaws of that movie completely outweigh everything that's good about it. But I know that movie is well loved. But I believe his vision is fully realized here, and Andor is turning out to be what Rogue One should have been. As I said, I wasn't a big fan of Rogue One, and I wasn't a big fan of Andor. I really didn't care for the character, and not to say I hated the character. He was playing the part he was meant to play, and he had an interesting redemption arc. But there was nothing notable about him for me in that movie. But here, I really sympathize with this character. He reeks of desperation. As a matter of fact, the whole setting, the whole world reeks of desperation. It feels oppressive, which is indicative of the empire's oppression. So it complements that, and it all culminates into a very, very compelling package. Another interesting thing about Andor is that so far in the show, the Empire is nowhere to be seen. But we do see their hands, the long reach of the Empire through the corpos, who are private security companies the Empire has hired to do their bidding, which makes sense because the Empire is watching over the entire galaxy. So they're spread pretty thin. So they have these private corporations, private firms, private security details, whatever, doing their bidding. And that is cool. And I'm not sure, please let me know in the comments. I'm not sure if this is part of Star Wars lore. If not, great, great job, Tony Gilroy. This is amazing. This is um, injecting more lore into an already lore rich universe. So that I found that very interesting. But very much like back in World War II, people who supported the axis of evil, a lot of them didn't have any choice. They didn't have a choice. So it is a complex situation. There's a lot of stories about people who completely believed what the Reich, the Third Reich, was doing was a crime. But they didn't have a choice. And you could be sitting there saying, oh, if it was me, I'll die. I'll jump off the ship and I'll never let them take me. I'll never be partisan to such evil. But in reality, that's not how things work. If somehow the world becomes dominated by one authoritarian empirical government, most of us will follow suit. Most of us will kill our families. This further emphasizes the oppression of the empire as they outsource tyranny, which also makes the members of these private security companies especially vile, especially hated by the rebels, by the people who are just trying to get by the people who feel the boot of the empire on their necks the most. I always find it interesting to watch a Star Wars show that doesn't have a lot of action in it, that doesn't have the audience just waiting for the Jedi to show up, but still is able to be an interesting product on its own. And Andor succeeds in this in spades. You are living on this planet with these people, you're feeling what they go through, and it is interesting. It can stand on its own 2 feet. Now, for the things I didn't like about Andor, I'm not a fan of flashbacks. Not a fan of flashbacks. They're a good writing tool to further solidify a theme or to do some exposition to shed light on a character's motivations, so it explains what they're doing in the present time, right? By going back into the past. I always find it grinds the pacing of a show, of a story, to a halt. And that is the situation here with Andor. But it's not all bad because what they're doing, it is a functional tool here to flesh out who Andor was and how he came to be in the situation that we meet him in the present. And it also fleshes out the people who are closest to him, like the woman who is basically his mother figure, and how they came together. I especially like the droid. You know, Star Wars is known for always introducing a new kind of fun droid with every show and with every new protagonist. And B, I believe his name is here, is so cool. I really like him. And he is introduced, spoilers, in those flashbacks. But rather, we learn how Cassian met B through those flashbacks. So the flashbacks do grind the pacing down, but ultimately it's still forgivable because it's functional. Another major problem, it's not a major problem. Well, it's an overall Disney problem, the way they release and premiere their shows, which is the inconsistent length of each episode. I believe one episode, the very first episode is 40 minutes, the other one is like 45 minutes. Actually, like the first episode is 39 minutes, then the other one is 40 minutes, and then the last one is about 45 minutes. So, very much like Kenobi, it's a movie that has been cut apart and being fed to us piecemeal. And as the show keeps giving us new episodes, which we're going to be having to wait weekly for, that's going to be kind of a problem. But not as bad as Kenobi, because even though the way they break up the episodes, the first three episodes we just got, the episodes just seem to stop, right? And then it picks up from there in the next episodes. It's not so bad because the show is genuinely good, and the stoppages aren't that jarring, but they are noticeable. It would have been way better for the show to have been released as one full episode, but that wouldn't fix the problems they're going to have down the line because, as I said, they're going to be releasing the episodes weekly, piecemeal, so they'll still have to deal with the stoppages. So Disney has a problem. Disney Plus has a problem with the way they format their shows, with the way they release their shows, with the way they write their shows. They're not writing shows. They're writing movies and then they're breaking them apart. This is a problem, and it's a bit forgivable here. I don't think it's good. It's going to be less forgivable as the show progresses. But in I don't know, something like Kenobi, it was pretty bad because that show's atrocious, and having to wait weekly for something that doesn't feel serialized, doesn't feel episodic, is kind of a pain. It's kind of grueling. So just as it is par for the course these days, with every new release, there's always some kind of controversy or something that usually stems from the actors or showrunners that they say that tends to put people off of the show, and Andor is no different. Here we have this actress spouting some, she's talking about her character. Yes, she's talking about in world, but she really comes off pretty insulting, and given that she's actually playing a character that is part of the authoritarian government, the empire, it makes even what she's saying even weirder. So let's take a listen.
So Dedra, when we meet her, she's working for the ISB, and she's so proud to be doing that. But she's surrounded by what she considers to be quite inept men, mostly. Well,
That's
no,
fine.
all men, really.
Boom.
So yeah, but
Why?
she's surrounded by
All men.
lazy, slouching, kind of corner cutting boys, and she doesn't like it. So she's gonna climb the ranks at whatever cost.
So yes, you might say yes. She's talking about a character in World, but she slips in those little insults, all men, and I doubt that everything she's talking about is the only thing that encompasses her character. If that's the only thing that encompasses her character, then Andor is going to have a problem. There's going to be people are going to who really want to hate on this show are going to have a field day with that. But it's very telling when an interviewer asks you about your character and all you can say is all men are boys and slouching and trash and all these things. My question is why? And what's going on with the PR folks at Disney? These people should have talking points or should be schooled on how to respond to certain topics because this just puts a bad taste in people's mouths. You know, like when I first saw this, I saw this before I watched the show, and it was kind of annoying. I don't like this person. This strong Brie Larson energy here, and it sucks. Why? Why do this? Is this all the character of the show is about? I hope not. And then we have Star Wars girl here, who, according to a moniker, is or should be a fan of Star Wars, and she has tweeted out a little critique of the first episode, an incident that happened in the first episode of Andor. So, spoiler alert here. She tweets out, so Andor murders two dudes in cold blood, but it's okay because he's looking for his sister, and Khan is investigating the death of his co-workers, but he's the bad guy? What the F? This makes absolutely no sense. And Andor did not murder these two corpos, these two imperial sympathizers in cold blood. They had a gun to him. They were trying to shake him down. This has been done in a lot of movies. It's always been justified, and no one ever bats an eye at situations like this. So this feels forced. It doesn't really make any sense, this criticism. And this Karn she's talking about is literally a higher up at the private security companies the the empire hires to oppress people. This guy is part of the tyrannical rule. He is an evil person. He is a bad guy, completely bad guy. Yes, he is the bad guy. This is such a horrible take. So it makes sense to be apprehensive of Star Wars products and releases these days, but you cannot let that completely sully your perspective on Star Wars because that way you will demonize even the good stuff, right? So we should all have more nuance in our approach to viewing and critiquing this stuff. This is a terrible take. So in conclusion, don't be a stan of any intellectual property. Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, DC, don't be a stan of any of those particular intellectual properties. Be a stan of the craft of storytelling. That way, you'll always be able to have an honest opinion, a clear perspective. You'll be able to analyze things with a clear head. Other than that, let me know what you guys think. I think this is looking good. And I cannot foresee this show not sticking the landing, but um, crazier things have happened. Let me know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. And I might continue covering this. It depends. You know, I'm not one for covering every episode of a show. But if this is good, I might come back to it. But other than that, I think this is a good outing so far, and I hope it stays that way. And let me know what you think. I'll catch you next time. Peace.